The sun was already setting, and in front of a chair, a guy was standing. Sitting on it was a curvaceous girl who told Yanmu that her brother wanted to buy a car. The protagonist closed his eyes, clenched the paper, and revealed that he had no more money. The woman then stood up and asked what had happened to this month's salary. She advised him to sell all the junk he had so he could give her money. But she soon noticed his pocket was empty and slapped him across the face. While Yanmu was devastated, she called him garbage and asked where he had hidden the money. He then looked at her, laughing, and said she was asking for it again. The girl grabbed a glass of water and threw it on him. What a humiliation. On the other hand, the art was really good. She then called him a loser and asked how he had the nerve to laugh. That lip of his, like a guy who had hit rock bottom, really sold it. He admitted he was trash and had no money left. Then he screamed, saying that just this month her parents had bought a house and a car with his money. Even if he earned $100 million a month, it wouldn't be enough for how much her family wanted to drain him dry. The woman then asked what he meant by her family, and questioned whether they didn't all consider themselves the same family. She said he was cold-hearted and asked why he didn't care about the family. Yanmu laughed. He told her to go to hell with that idiotic notion of family because he was tired of them. The woman, equally unfazed, told him if that was the case, he could die 100 times over. He spread his arms and asked if she really thought he didn't have the guts. She said she'd love to see him die, but first she wanted a moment to buy some life insurance, so at least she'd get some value out of it before he went. Yanmu smiled. He said Fang Yuxue really was tough after all. He turned and ran toward the window. She shouted at him, but the guy was about to find out if he could fly. In the middle of his fall, he wondered if that was truly the end of his life. Then the scene shifted to July 1st, 2009. A short-haired woman asked Yanmu why he was suddenly kneeling. A blonde guy questioned if kneeling as soon as you walked in the door was a family tradition of his. That's when the protagonist seemed to regain his senses. He was surprised, wondering if he was alive. The woman, arms crossed, asked if he was going crazy. He looked up and called her Mom. Apparently in China, when you marry a woman, you start calling her mother Mom. But this one only said he could call her that if he put another 40,000 into the wedding. The guy was a bit confused, wondering what kind of dowry price that was. Then he remembered it had all happened 8 years ago when he proposed to Fang Yuxue. The price had gone from 40,000 to 400,000, and she asked what he thought about that. Gradually, he got up, saying he thought a lot about it. In his past life, that wretched family had drained everything from him until he died in a pit. He then said he agreed. The so-called mother's eyes gleamed, and she asked if he was really willing to do it, but he shouted that there was no way he'd agree to such idiocy. Now that he'd been given a second chance, he wasn't about to make the same mistakes. The mother asked what he meant, questioning if he really thought her daughter wasn't worth $1 million. Fang Yuxue remained silent. Yanmu asked if the whole family had hearing or mental problems. He had already made it clear he wouldn't spend a cent on this wedding. Yuxue stood up and asked how he could do such a thing, but he replied that she should be arguing with her mother for being sold for $1 million. She made a pained expression and said it hadn't been easy for her relatives to raise her, so they deserved to ask for something. The father then wanted to know what he gained besides a loser brother who only wanted his money. The blonde idiot stood up, demanding to know who he was calling a loser. The father, mercilessly, said it was him who couldn't even earn enough to feed himself. The blonde guy went in for a big punch, but it seemed Yanmu had fought this guy in a past life and wasn't going to act the same way. He smashed the guy's head against the pavement while the mother screamed at him to let Xiaoyu go, who was supposedly family. But Yanmu responded that as long as he wasn't married, none of them were his family. He then turned around and declared that from this moment on, he had nothing to do with any of them. Fang Yuxue asked if their relationship wasn't worth any money at all. Yanmu asked if she had ever wondered how many of his relatives had worked hard to earn $500,000. In his past life, his hopeful father spent everything he had on lottery tickets and ended up winning. With that, he gave $500,000, and Yanmu gave the other half, securing the marriage. That was a man who gave his all. Yanmu then walked out the door, saying all she wanted was someone to support her family, and that someone wasn't going to be him. The next scene shows him already at the same lottery his father had won before. The prize had accumulated to over $100 million. In his past life, at this very moment, he went down and won a ticket with his father. He hoped he could clearly remember this, even though his memories were muddled from the passage of time. He then walked to the counter and said he wanted to buy a lottery ticket. The clerk informed him that the drawing would be held tonight at 9:15 p.m. That's when he glanced to the side and saw his father arriving. His father wondered if he was really seeing his son, since theoretically, he was supposed to be at Fang Yuxue's place. Yanmu noticed that his father looked completely worn out and wondered if he ever had a chance to rest. He hid so his father wouldn't see him. At that moment, his father, clutching a ticket, was praying that if he won, he wouldn't have to worry about the price of his son's wedding. Yanmu swore that from this day on, his family would never suffer again. That's when the system came into play. The novice mission was to win $100 million and build his own industry. He had 24 hours to do this, but 3 hours had already passed, leaving him with only 21 hours. If he failed, he would lose his life. The protagonist was understandably confused. The next scene took him back to his home. Looking at his hand, he knew he had 21 hours left according to this system. Suddenly, he heard a voice asking what someone was doing and telling them to let go. Yanmu recognized the voice as Mangyo's. He rushed up the stairs, calling her name and asking what was wrong. Manga was a childhood friend, almost like a sister to him. In his past life, her mother had borrowed money from loan sharks, and as expected, things turned grim when they couldn't repay. Both ended up in their graves. Yanwu swore he would protect her in this life. Inside one of the rooms, two men were taunting her, saying she could scream all she wanted because no one would save her. One of them, with an open shirt, mocked her for possibly calling Yanwu, implying he was useless. In the next moment, Yanwu delivered a swift blow to the first guy. He saved her quickly. It was a punch and a hug, a spot and rescue. The blonde guy didn't even know who had hit him. Another man approached from behind, asking if Yanwu was tired of living. But Yanwu easily immobilized his arm, questioning how a gangster could be so bad at fighting. The blonde guy called him a bastard and pulled out a cutter, threatening to kill him. Yanwu, however, stated that he knew they were there for money, warning that if anyone made a move, they'd never get paid. The men questioned if he actually had money. The one in the red shirt scoffed, saying it was obvious he was dirt poor. The blonde then pointed out that the debt exceeded $500,000. Yanwu responded that he would have the money in 3 days. This time, instead of spending $500,000 on one woman, he would spend it on another. A genius move indeed. Another man reminded them of several outstanding medical debts. The blonde warned that if the due date came and they didn't have the money, Manhua would have to cover his debt. Yanwu declared that when he delivered the money, everyone would have to kneel and apologize to her. As they left, they mocked him, saying he should try his luck or he'd be without legs soon. The system then reminded him he had 20 hours left to complete the mission and had to act fast. His life was tied to survival points, and at the moment he had very few, so his body would begin to show symptoms. The system mentioned a real estate agency that was about to go bankrupt. While he pondered how his life was now determined by points, Meng Yao called out to him, apologizing and saying she didn't want to drag him down with her. Yanwu told her not to worry and reassured her that within 3 days he'd ensure they apologized. But then his body reacted. His head began to throb and he felt nauseous. Meng Yao asked if he was okay and he collapsed on the mountain. The fall was intense and seeing him hit the ground was truly heartbreaking. He apologized, saying he was hungry and felt weak, but he quickly realized these were the adverse symptoms the system had warned about. The scene then shifted to the Fang family home. The mother asked if he had responded to her call, to which Fang Yuxue said he hadn't. The father was ready to slap her, asking how it was possible to have a daughter who couldn't even control a man. The mother told Lao Fang to lower his hand, saying there was something off about Yanwu today. The father scratched his chin, agreeing it was strange since he usually groveled at Yuxue's feet. He wondered if Yanwu had somehow gotten rich. He then told his daughter that she needed to go and win him back before another woman did. The worst thing would be for him to become rich and for her to lose her chance to be his wife. Even the mother began pushing her out of the house, telling her to go and capture that man. No sympathy here for this cursed woman, though Fang Yuxue was now questioning why Yanwu had acted so differently today. Back with our boy, Yanwu was serving some apples to Meng Yao when the doorbell rang. She said she would get it, and outside it was, of course, Fang Yuxue. As soon as she saw Yanwu, she demanded to know what was going on. Yanwu asked if he hadn't made it clear that there was nothing between them anymore or if she was there because her snobby mother wasn't satisfied. Fang Yuxue, however, shouted that it was impossible and wanted to know if he was interested in someone else or if he changed his mind just because they raised the wedding price. Yanwu told her to give up, that anything between them was completely impossible. He said that out of whatever bond they once had, he'd give her some advice. She should leave that house as soon as possible and live more freely. She ignored him, turned around, called him a delicate son of a mother, and swore he would regret it. Meng Yao stood there, confused, not understanding what was happening. As far as she remembered, they were close, so how had things turned this way? Yanwu told her to stay at his place for now because he had to leave for a trip. He muttered to himself that he didn't care about that stupid relationship and that it was time to explore the available businesses in the city. Out on Jiangxing Street, people were talking about the lottery drawing. Apparently, fortune fever was running wild in China. His father was there, saying all he wanted was for his son to buy a house and get married. Yanwu was hiding carefully. He didn't want anyone to know he was about to win. While watching the news, he noticed a real estate company called Fidelidade that seemed like a promising place to invest. He already knew that in the future, this company would become massive, but right now, they were facing serious challenges. If he took control of the company, he could potentially become extremely wealthy within a few years. He decided that this would be his first investment. The scene shifted to the Fidelidade real estate company the next day at 9:20 a.m. The place already looked like it had declared bankruptcy, and there were people shouting at the entrance. The system reminded him that his survival chances were low and he had little time left to complete the mission. Unfortunately, he had to visit the bank to collect his lottery winnings, which delayed him. A man in a yellow helmet walked by, mentioning he was bringing a banner. Yanwu asked why everyone was there, and they explained they hadn't been paid for half a year. Yanwu said it was common for payments from construction companies to be a little late, just a little 6 months. However, another person said that usually they could pay at the end, but in this case, the company's boss had fled, leaving the business deep in debt. Clearly, they wouldn't have any money to pay anyone, so they needed some way to get something. Yan Mu, though, seemed excited, asking if the boss really had run away. The man confirmed, saying it was information from the top employees of the company. Yan Mu left excitedly, thanking the guy. His time was limited, but at least his chances of achieving his goal were increasing. In front of a black car, people held up signs demanding payment before leaving. The company, called Fuda, had Kong Ru, a 40-year-old man wearing glasses, as its former owner. A bald man named Libio, serving as his bodyguard, muttered that the dogs were going crazy. He asked Kong why he didn't just hire people to deal with the mess, but Kong replied that letting them bark was better than inviting more trouble. At that moment, Yan Mu knocked on the window, startling the bald man. He had 25 minutes left to complete his mission. Yan Mu opened the car door and entered. He introduced himself to Kong Ru, saying he was there to talk business. The bald man grabbed him by the collar, asking if he really wanted to die. Yan Mu calmly stated that he had information that could prevent Kong Ru from spending the rest of his life behind bars. The boss told him to forget about money since he didn't have the means to pay anyone. But then Yan Mu revealed that he was there to give money. He offered to assume all the company's debts, including overdue wages, but in return, he wanted ownership of the Fuda real estate company. Kong questioned if Yan Mu understood the value he was talking about since they owed a lot, especially to unpaid employees. Yan Mu, with just 10 minutes left on the system's clock, said he'd take it all. Kong said he wouldn't even start talking for less than 50 million. Yan Mu agreed to the amount. Suddenly, Kong shouted, asking why this kid who barely had facial hair was raising his voice. The bodyguard told him to stop making up numbers. Yan Mu silenced him with a swift blow to the throat. Kong was shocked that this kid had taken down his bodyguard. He told the bald man to hold back and asked Yan Mu not to waste his time if he didn't have the money to pay employees. Yan Mu insisted he take the land and debts for 50 million and pay immediately. He knew Kong Ru was desperate to escape, and acquiring as much land as possible in this city was his goal. Yan Mu demanded everything Kong had in his name in the area. Kong asked if he was trying to make a fool of him. For the boss, getting rid of those properties was urgent. Yan Mu reassured him it was no joke and asked him to name his price. With just 5 minutes left on the system timer, the boss questioned if Yan Mu was serious, while the bald bodyguard thought he was insane. The system warned him again that with 3 minutes remaining, his senses would begin to shut down. Yan Mu confirmed he was serious and asked if the boss had made a decision. He was determined to buy the Fuda company, no matter what happened. The boss then said that if he had at least 20 million right then, they could make the transfer, and he could pay the rest later. The problem was that Yan Mu's hearing had already failed. While it seemed like a foolish situation, Yan Mu cleverly deduced from the boss's mouth movements and gestures that he was likely asking for around 20 million. Kong Ru instructed Li Biao to handle the transfer to Mr. Yan. The countdown continued with only 10 seconds remaining. Yan Mu's vision was fading, and he needed to finalize the deal by pressing his fingerprint. With 6 seconds left and then 4 seconds, the transaction succeeded. However, Yan Mu collapsed at the bank, questioning why the system hadn't announced the mission's completion. His energy was still being drained, and he felt death was imminent. At that moment, the system finally congratulated him, awarding him 13 survival points. Yan Mu didn't celebrate, he was simply relieved to be alive. The system explained that survival points could be used in the system's store or to extend his life. Meanwhile, the commotion erupted as someone shouted at Kong Ru. A man in front asked Yan Mu if he was okay. Yan Mu confirmed and told Kong Ru to use the money to pay the workers as soon as possible. Kong Ru instructed the man to inform everyone outside that they would be paid by the evening. The announcement was made through the sunroof, but the skeptical crowd doubted that months of overdue payments would suddenly be resolved. One of them said that if they weren't paid, they'd return to put an end to it for good. The bodyguard asked what their next step would be, and Kong Ru suggested returning with Yan Mu to strategize. The scene shifted to the real estate office, where the former president brought documents for Yan Mu to review. Yan Mu dismissed the old plans and marked certain areas on a map. He pointed out specific lands to purchase and others to leave untouched. Kong Ru complained that one of the areas Yan Mu wanted to buy was isolated and abandoned, calling it a waste of money. Yan Mu, however, insisted it was the perfect spot for future development as new schools and buildings would soon emerge there, making it ideal for a commercial district. Yan Mu elaborated, saying they would build an entire shopping complex, including shops, a hotel, and more, with a unique design that met safety standards. Kong Ru agreed to handle it and was told by Yan Mu that good work would always be rewarded. Kong then invited Yan Mu to an upcoming investment meeting. The scene shifted to the Jingping Hotel, where Yan Mu inquired about the investment event. He glanced back and was surprised to see Fang Yuxue there wearing a revealing dress. A chubby man beside her blushed, saying he hadn't expected her to look so stunning. Fang Yuxue appeared annoyed, as this was the only man willing to pay the exorbitant wedding price. The man pulled her aside, asking if she was distracted. It was then that she noticed Yan Mu. They exchanged looks but said nothing. The blonde-haired man sensed they might know each other. Yan Mu reflected on how quickly Fang Yuxue had moved on and dismissed any concern. It was none of his business. However, when the blonde man bumped into him on purpose, Yan Mu asked what he thought he was doing. The man accused Yan Mu of standing in the way and jabbed a finger at his chest, questioning if someone as poor as him even knew where he was. Yanmu mocked the man for his appearance, but the blonde man demanded to know if Yanmu had any idea who he was and whether he really wanted to pick a fight in front of the girl. Ignoring him, Yanmu asked Fang Yuxue about her relationship with this man, to which she replied that it had nothing to do with him. The blonde man walked away, taunting Yanmu for dreaming he'd ever have a woman like Fang Yuxue. Yanmu reflected that he had once thought Fang Yuxue was a simple and kind girl and believed the problem was her family, but it seemed he was wrong, and this realization allowed him to finally let go. The scene shifted to the investment reception. The system assigned Yanmu a mission to invest in one of the businesses present to earn 10 more points. Yanmu knew this would be challenging, given the people in attendance. A security guard blocked his entrance, asking if he knew where he was going. Yanmu asked if this wasn't the investment reception. The guard sneered, telling him to leave because the event was for people planning to spend millions. Yanmu ignored all of it and simply stated that he was also there to make some investments. However, the security guard mocked him, asking what kind of investor walked around in janitor clothes. Yanmu was not pleased by being judged based on his attire. At that moment, the blonde-haired man appeared and asked if Yanmu was following them. The guard laughed, saying that this kid really seemed lost and was even claiming he was there to invest. The chubby man chimed in, saying that Yanmu needed to learn to invest in himself first. He placed a hand on Yanmu's shoulder, condescendingly remarking that he had energy but couldn't waste it by just chasing after women. He said there was no use in Yanmu getting angry since that beauty would stay in his arms. Yanmu was about to walk past, but the guard blocked him again. At that moment, the chubby man noticed something and mentioned that Brother Kong had finally arrived. Yanmu glanced at Fang Yuxue and asked if she was doing this for money. She claimed it had nothing to do with him, but he pressed further, asking if she was truly willing to do anything for money and degrade herself in such a way. She remained silent and he turned away. Meanwhile, the chubby man asked Kong if his company had recently been acquired. Kong confirmed, and the chubby man mentioned that he too was looking to sell his business, though times were tough. As they spoke, Kong noticed someone else and excused himself, saying he had another person to speak to. He approached Yanmu. The chubby man, now puzzled, wondered why Kong Ru was addressing the young man as Mr. Yan. Fang Yuxue, watching from the sidelines, was equally curious. Mr. Ma, the chubby man, asked Kong if he had lost his mind by calling such a young man his boss. Kong clarified that they were misunderstanding. Mr. Yanmu was indeed the new owner of Fuda. The chubby man was shocked, asking if this was the person who had recently bought the company. Kong confirmed it. Immediately, Meidong turned to Yanmu, apologizing profusely for his previous behavior. He claimed it was all just a joke, that he didn't know Yanmu's identity, and begged for forgiveness, promising to do whatever was asked of him. Yanmu turned to him and asked if he was Mr. Meidong. Meidong confirmed, and Yanmu coldly told him to leave. Naturally, Meidong left fuming, muttering that Yanmu would pay for this humiliation. Once inside the event, Kong Rui asked if Yanmu had any particular investments in mind. Yanmu replied that he hadn't decided yet and needed to look around, knowing that the best options were likely already taken. That's when he noticed a booth for a company called Nebula, which would become highly influential in the internet industry. The representative handed him a card, explaining that they would be producing wireless routers. Yanmu recognized the man as Zhang Penju, the company's founder. Seeing him working so hard now made it clear why Nebula became so successful in the future. Kong advised against investing, claiming it was a foreign company with little value in the local market. Others agreed, dismissing the idea of internet routers as a distant prospect, not worth investing in yet. Penju insisted that routers were the future, with wireless signals soon becoming essential worldwide. The others scoffed, saying only an idiot would invest in something like that. They argued that such a business shouldn't even qualify for investment opportunities. That's when Yanmu pulled out a card and announced he would invest 15 million in the company. Penju, sweating nervously, asked if he was serious. Yanmu confirmed, saying he was optimistic about their future, confident that with the growth of the internet, Nebula would become a major force. Out of nowhere, Meidong appeared again, shouting for everyone not to listen to Yanmu, calling him a beggar spouting nonsense. He was about to insult Yanmu when Kong stepped in, warning Meidong to be quiet since they were friends, but this would be his last warning. Suddenly, Meidong revealed Kong's plans to abandon the company and leave everyone unpaid. The other investors started whispering, calling Kong untrustworthy. Meidong sneered, saying Kong would be smarter not to be the dog of this kid. Kong began to protest, but Yanmu cut him off, asking Meidong if he truly thought he didn't have 15 million to invest. Meidong arrogantly confirmed, saying he could spot a liar easily, especially one as poor as Yanmu. Yanmu challenged him to a bet. If he could produce the 15 million to invest, Meidong would have to kneel, publicly apologize, and slap himself 3 times. Meidong hesitated, sure Yanmu had no money, but worried about the consequences if he did. Just then, someone interrupted, saying that Mr. Mei was ruining the fun for everyone. It was Tang Ning, the second son of the Tang family, a significant figure, judging by Meidong's trembling reaction. Yanmu knew the Tang family produced materials essential for Nebula's equipment. Since he wants to invest in those guys, it would be perfect if he could get closer to them. Tang Ning asks what's going on, and Mei Dong says they're just having fun, joking around, nothing serious. However, Tang Ning asks if they really think he's an idiot, as he's sure something's going on and wants them to continue. Mei Dong says fine then, they'll make the bet. Meanwhile, Kong asks our guy if he's sure he wants to make this bet. Our guy says he's sure, but the problem is he doesn't know where his card is. At that moment, Fang Yuxue tells him he should just disappear before he embarrasses himself. She thinks to herself that this supposed fortune he seems to have is clearly a lie. Mei Dong grabs Fang Yuxue and tells our guy to stop pretending and just admit he lost the bet. However, it turns out the guy is just messing around. He dramatically pulls out the card out of nowhere. He turns to Penju and says that if he agrees to the deal, he'll make the investment right now. The president obviously agrees and says he'll go get the machine, thinking that despite his shabby appearance, this guy is reliable. Just then, Mei Dong intervened, ridiculing Yan Mu as a beggar and snatching his card, showing everyone it was a basic card. He mocked Yan Mu for lacking a special card if he had such wealth. Yan Mu took back the card, stating they'd soon see who had money. The transaction was initiated, but the machine showed insufficient funds. Mei Dong laughed, calling Yan Mu a fraud. Yan Mu, confused, couldn't understand why his funds were inaccessible. Kong wondered what to do next, and Penju, sensing something was wrong, believed Yan Mu wasn't lying. Mei Dong pretended to be magnanimous, suggesting he forgive Yan Mu and wouldn't demand he kneel. But Tang Ning intervened, asserting that bets must be honored. Kong protested, saying banking errors were possible. Mei Dong, growing impatient, demanded Yan Mu settle the bet. Yan Mu declared that Mei Dong feared he truly had money and wanted to escape. Mei Dong scoffed, claiming he had nothing to fear from a child. He ordered security to force Yan Mu to kneel if he didn't comply. Yan Mu calmly said it was too soon to conclude anything. As tensions rose, Yan Mu disappeared in a blur, taking down 2 guards instantly. Fang Yuxue was stunned, unable to comprehend Yan Mu's newfound combat skills. Even Tang Ming was amazed by how quickly Yan Mu dispatched the guards. Bank officials approached, but Mei Dong dismissed them. Tang Ning insisted the matter be resolved. As the account balance was checked, Mei Dong mocked the notion of Yan Mu having 50 million. Yan Mu confirmed he did, explaining his funds were temporarily frozen pending verification. Once cleared, he'd receive a higher tier card. The news stunned Fang Yuxue and Mei Dong. Yan Mu asked if the transfer could proceed, while the chubby man accused the bank official of being a stooge. The official handed Mei Dong the card, confirming everything was legitimate. Shortly after, he informed Yan Mu his bank issue was resolved, and he'd soon receive a gold card. Enraged, Mei Dong dismissed the significance of Yan Mu's wealth, demanding he make the promised investment. Yan Mu completed the transaction successfully. Kong asked if Mei Dong had anything more to say. Cornered, Mei Dong claimed they'd set him up and refused to kneel. Tang Ning kicked him behind the knee, reminding him to honor his bet. Mei Dong slapped himself, apologizing to Yan Mu, but Yan Mu pressed, saying he hadn't finished everything as agreed. Yan Mu, still maintaining his calm demeanor, suggested to Mei Dong that he might want to tell the truth about the former situation with Mr. Kong's company. Mei Dong, cornered, apologized, admitting that the issues with unpaid salaries were all fabricated. Before leaving, he muttered under his breath that he would eventually put Yan Mu in a coffin. The Nebula founder approached Yan Mu, expressing his gratitude and assuring him that he would not disappoint. The crowd surrounded and praised Yan Mu, while Fang Yuxue was left questioning if he had always been this wealthy. She recalled her parents pushing her to meet Mei Dong that day, insisting she find a rich man as they saw no value in raising her otherwise. Her mother made her usual dramatic claims, saying she wasn't forcing her, but failure would mean the family's extinction. As Tang Ming observed, stating their meeting must be destiny, Fang Yuxue left. Yan Mu earned his points from the system, which then informed him it would take a 10% cut of his earnings. Yan Mu was irritated by the unexpected tax. At that moment, Kong's bald assistant informed them of a new issue. Workers were rioting again despite the transfer of payments. The workers demanded severance, fearing job loss under new management. Kong, unsure of how to handle the situation with projects taking time to commence, asked Yan Mu what they should do. Yan Mu suggested returning to the company to assess the situation. Arriving at Fuda's site, chaos erupted as workers clashed. A helmeted worker pushed a blond man against the wall, demanding to meet with Mr. Kong. In the commotion, a drill was brandished and shockingly used. Someone called for an ambulance as Yan Mu and his team arrived. The injured worker was unconscious, with others shouting about preventing intrusions. Yan Mu calmly asked if an ambulance had been called. The bald assistant confirmed, but it would take 10 minutes and by then it might be too late. One desperate worker kneeled, explaining his daughter was ill and he needed money. The scene stirred memories of Yan Mu's father. Another worker struggled to help, realizing the injured man wasn't breathing. Kong ordered the 2 instigators bound. They smugly claimed they were helping establish order, but the bald assistant scolded them, blaming their stupidity for worsening the situation. Yan Mu, noticing the dying worker, asked the system if he could be saved. The system offered a costly upgrade option to obtain a medicine that might work, but all Yan Mu could access was basic enhancements. The system then proposed another solution, spending 12 survival points to keep the man alive until medical help arrived. The function was one-time use, so caution was advised. Yan Mu hesitated but agreed, unwilling to stand by idly. The workers' condition stabilized and the instigators were thrown to the ground. Yan Mu, furious, condemned their reckless actions. Realization struck these were the same thugs who had threatened Meng earlier. When Kong inquired, they admitted it, revealing that Yan Mu was burdened with a debt caused by a neighbor's gambling mother with plans to exploit his sister. Kong, enraged, demanded to know if they had been misusing the company's name and ruining its reputation. Yan Mu confirmed Meidong's involvement. Kong acknowledged the connection but assured Yan Mu they would handle it now that he was in charge. Without a second thought, Yan Mu delivered a swift kick to the blonde instigator's chest, ensuring his actions had consequences. The workers cheered at the sight of Yan Mu dealing with the thugs, especially since those two had been harassing them. Finally, the ambulance arrived and the paramedics pushed through the crowd to attend to the injured man. Kong expressed relief that the situation hadn't turned fatal. Unsure of what to do next, he asked Yan Mu for guidance. Yan Mu stated that their first priority should be calming the workers, but the problem was there was no work available for now. The workers voiced their distrust, complaining that they were always promised payment but never saw results. Yan Mu assured them that the company would implement formal employment contracts, making it legally binding to pay them. The workers, many of whom were likely undocumented, seemed cautiously hopeful. Some remarked that they'd heard contracts meant mandatory payments by law, though they were unfamiliar with the details. Kong allowed Yan Mu to take charge, noting that without him the company would have collapsed. When Kong asked what should be done about the two thugs, Yan Mu said their focus should be on preserving the company's reputation. He recommended covering all medical expenses for the injured worker. Kong promised to handle it, ensuring nothing would be overlooked. Yan Mu then left, advising Kong to deal with the troublemakers. Back at Yan Mu's home, he wondered if his parents were back yet. Opening the door, he was greeted by a bright sunbeam. Meng asked why he was late. He explained he had business to attend to. She inquired if he was working extra hard to marry Fang Yuxue. Yan Mu dismissed the notion, promising instead to find a better place for her soon. He knew Meng dream was to live in a grand house, and perhaps he could make it happen tomorrow. She asked what surprise he had in store, but he suggested she rest first since it was late. Lying in bed, Yan Mu reflected on the system's grip over not just his life but the lives of others. He wondered about its limitations. The system then informed him he could enter a unique space when in a secure location. The room distorted and the system asked if he was ready for his inheritance. Confused, he questioned what inheritance it meant. As he looked down, he saw an image of himself from before his rebirth. The system explained that he must accept the Lord's inheritance or the world would be annihilated. Not much of a choice, he thought, and before he could answer, the process began. The system warned that after receiving the inheritance, his level would be restricted, and no more missions would be available for a while. Staring at his hand, Yan Mu wondered what was happening. The inheritance completed and the system displayed a progress bar, 1%. It explained that without sufficient attributes, he couldn't unlock all abilities. Yan Mu groaned, frustrated by the system's games, but resolved to claim everything in due time. From outside, Meng asked if he was tired. He opened the door and saw her standing there. It was morning and Meng reminded him that he had promised to take her out. Apologizing, Yan Mu assured her they would leave soon. The scene shifted to the streets of Jiangsheng. The two walked and Meng noticed Yan Mu wore the same clothes as before. She pointed out Fang Yuxue, who was once again clinging to the chubby man from before. Meng remarked that Fang Yuxue didn't seem well and asked if something was wrong. Yan Mu brushed it off, saying it was her choice and none of their concern. As they continued walking, Meng kept asking about his history with Fang Yuxue. Yan Mu deflected and they arrived at a property showroom. A saleswoman greeted them, but after hearing Yan Mu wanted to see villas, she scoffed, suggesting they look at smaller homes due to their appearance. Even Meng was surprised, questioning Yan Mu's finances. Yan Mu promised to buy her a grand home, which left her in shock. The saleswoman dismissed him, mocking his apparent poverty and suggesting he was confusing the value of such properties. Meng embarrassed, wanted to leave. The saleswoman continued her insults, saying their clothes weren't even worth $200, so how could they afford a mansion? Yan Mu took Meng arm, intending to leave, when a man with purple hair appeared. Recognizing him as Su Fi, Yan Mu attempted a friendly greeting, but Su Fi coldly brushed him off. He sneered, pointing out Yan Mu's poverty and questioning why he was talking about buying a villa. Yan Mu ignored the comment and asked why Su Fi was speaking to him at all. Su Fi, feigning nonchalance, mentioned that he managed a few small businesses and was on the market for a new house. The saleswoman eagerly jumped in, praising Su Fi and saying that he was perfect for one of their exquisite villas. Su Fi then turned to Yan Mu, smugly stating that he had more pressing matters and that Yan Mu, being a drifter, could take his time. Yan Mu, unbothered, replied that he had a relaxed life, so Su Fi could go ahead. The saleswoman accompanied Su Fi to view the villas, leaving Yan Mu to step aside, pretending to make a phone call. It was clear he wasn't planning to let this slide. Meanwhile, Stedify pulled out his card, ready to make a purchase without further inspection. The saleswoman informed him that the suite cost 2 million and confirmed if he was sure. She was thrilled about the high commission she stood to earn. Xu Fi, driven by his long-standing envy of Yan Mu for his academic success and popularity with girls, took the opportunity to feel superior. He glanced at Meng Yao, noting Yan Mu's absence, and mocked her, suggesting that Yan Mu had abandoned her. Yan Mu returned, apologizing for the delay. Xu Fi dismissively remarked that it didn't matter, then asked what kind of house Yan Mu intended to buy, mocking him by offering to put his father to work as a laborer. Meng Yao, furious, told Xu Fei to stop trampling on people's dignity with his money. Xu Fei, sneering, retorted that money was the harsh reality of society. Yan Mu calmly asked Meng Yao to settle down, warning Xu Fei that any further disrespect would make him forget they had ever been classmates. Xu Fei, undeterred, prodded Yan Mu's chest, claiming he wasn't in a position to lecture anyone. The saleswoman chimed in, telling Yan Mu he clearly couldn't afford anything and should leave. Xu Fei agreed and called for security. But just then, a well-dressed man approached Yan Mu, informing him that his gold bank card was ready. Another senior saleswoman appeared, asking about the commotion. The first saleswoman complained that a troublemaker was causing problems without being able to afford a house. Yan Mu pulled out his VIP gold card, silencing the rune, and asked who claimed he couldn't pay. The senior administrator immediately recognized the card, apologized profusely, and offered her services. Meanwhile, Xu Fi, desperate to maintain his standing, grabbed the administrator, insisting he was a valued customer. She questioned whether he recognized the card Yan Mu held. Xu Fi glanced at it dismissively before realizing it was a super VIP card, not just any bank card. Stunned, he stumbled, accusing Yan Mu of theft before walking away. Yan Mu, having researched property values, asked for prices and was told 10 million each. He confidently handed over his card, announcing he'd buy. The senior saleswoman, now eager to serve, prepared the transaction, but Yan Mu stopped her, declaring that any commission would go to someone else, not her. The administrator then fired the saleswoman on the spot. Xu Fei tried to befriend Yan Mu, suggesting they go out for drinks. Before Yan Mu could respond, security escorted Xu Fei away. Xu Fei pleaded, asking if Yan Mu really wanted him removed by force. Yan Mu reminded him that Xu Fei had just called for the same treatment. Panicking, Xu Fei offered to apologize. Curious, Yan Mu asked the system if it could read people's fortunes. The system confirmed it could, even revealing potential for discovering treasures. Yan Mu considered the strategic use of such abilities. He then noticed a dark aura around Xu Fi and warned him to be careful, as bad luck seemed to loom over him. Xu Fi dismissed it, still begging for reconciliation. Meanwhile, the dismissed saleswoman begged the administrator for another chance, claiming her father's illness would worsen without her job. Meng Yao, feeling sympathy, asked Yan Mu to reconsider. Yan Mu agreed, and the administrator allowed the saleswoman to stay, attributing her second chance to Yan Mu's decision. Observing Meng Yao's golden fortune aura, Yan Mu noted she was destined for good things. Nearby, an older woman, impressed by Yan Mu's success, asked if he'd like to meet her granddaughters. Yan Mu, bold as ever, replied that he was with his girlfriend and was there to buy her a house. Yan Mu whispered quietly to Meng Yao, asking her to cooperate and play along so they could avoid an awkward situation. She turned away, blushing, and he asked what was wrong. Just then, he received a call from Fang Yuxue. Meng Yao immediately noticed his change in demeanor. Checking his old model phone, Yan Mu saw a message from Fang Yuxue saying she was in room 606 and needed help. Yan Mu wondered if she had willingly gone to the hotel with Madame. Meng Yao saw the message too and insisted that if he didn't help Fang Yuxue and something terrible happened, he'd regret it. Yan Mu, however, dismissed it, saying it was no longer his problem. Meng Yao pleaded with him, saying he couldn't just stand by. She told him to help Yuxue and assured him she'd make her way home alone. Reluctantly, Yan Mu ran off, telling Meng Yao to be careful. The scene shifted to room 606, where Madong was making lecherous advances on Fang Yuxue, commenting on her figure with disgusting remarks. Fang Yuxue demanded he stay away from her, but Madong grabbed her wrist, reminding her that it was her family who arranged the meeting, so she had better comply. He began tearing at her clothes, claiming she'd already promised to spend time with him. At that moment, the door opened. Yan Mu entered, holding up his phone and announcing that everything was recorded. Madong, shocked, lunged for the phone, but Yan Mu kneed him in the stomach, causing him to collapse and retch. Madong threatened Yan Mu, claiming he'd still have his way with Fang Yuxue and send thugs after him. Yan Mu responded by slamming the phone against Madong's ear, demanding he repeat himself. Madong, undeterred, called Yan Mu a worthless loser who would never have any woman. Yan Mu delivered another harsh kick, finally silencing him. Turning to Fang Yuxue, who was complaining of feeling overheated and weak, Yan Mu realized she'd been drugged. He carried her to the bathroom, placed her in the tub, and told her to call if she needed anything. Meanwhile, Madong tried crawling away but received another kick from Yan Mu. When Madong protested, claiming he hadn't actually done anything, Yan Mu reminded him of the recorded evidence. Desperate, Madong asked what Yan Mu wanted. Yan Mu, ever pragmatic, asked if Meidong was prepared to pay for his freedom. Meidong, paranoid, suspected Fang Yuxue of setting him up. Yan Mu dismissed the notion, stating it was none of his concern what happened when the footage went public. Meidong countered, claiming the hotel wouldn't release security footage to him, to which Yan Mu coolly replied that he had connections with the hotel manager and invited him to test his luck. Panicking, Meidong tried negotiating, offering 5 million. Yan Mu scoffed, demanding 40 million. Fang Yuxue emerged from the bathroom at that moment, and Meidong, frantic, raised his offer to 10 million. Yan Mu pressed on, settling at 30 million and warning Meidong to keep his word. Clearly defeated, Meidong fled, muttering threats of revenge. Yan Mu turned to Fang Yuxue, asking if she was okay. She thanked him for his help. Yan Mu brushed it off and prepared to leave. Suddenly, Fang Yuxue grabbed his arm, asking if it was true that he planned to invest 15 million in the Nebula Group. Yan Mu questioned if she hadn't seen him transfer the money earlier. She admitted she had, but was confused about how he suddenly acquired such wealth. Yan Mu avoided the question, instead asking if money was more important to her than feelings. Fang Yuxue released his arm and Yan Mu left, telling her she'd find her way home on her own. Back at the real estate company, Manga asked if he had sorted everything out. Yan Mu confirmed he had, thanking the manager, who assured him he would always be treated as a valued client at their company. Yan Mu gently comforted Mengyo, who admitted she was tired and didn't want to intrude on anyone's life anymore. Yan Mu reassured her that he would finalize the paperwork for their new residence tomorrow. Meanwhile, at Meidong's office, his underlings fussed over him as he ranted about his injuries. They demanded to know who had hurt him, ready to retaliate. Meidong, seething with rage, told them to hold off for now. He had plans to deal with the Fang family first, determined to claim Fang Yuxue if he had to pay the 30 million. Back at the Fang household, Fang Yuxue's parents speculated about her absence. Her mother suggested it was a good sign, implying she had captivated Meidong's attention, likely working her charm. Just then, Fang Yuxue returned, visibly distressed. Her mother, feigning delight, questioned her lateness. Fang Yuxue quickly shut it down, announcing there would be no deal with Meidong. Shocked, her mother demanded an explanation. Fang Yuxue revealed Meidong's attempt to drug her and how Yan Mu had intervened. Her father dismissed Yan Mu's interference as a nuisance, while Fang Yuxue, noting his change, mentioned Yan Mu's recent investments and real estate acquisition. Her mother, eyes lighting up at the prospect of the wealthy son-in-law, insisted she rekindle the relationship. The scene shifted to an internet cafe where a young man engrossed in a game of Crossfire impressed his friend, who suggested a casual match. A bystander encouraged them to make it competitive, wagering a pack of cigarettes. The gamer, consumed by his addiction, agreed. He lost terribly, 3-20 to the newcomer, who casually suggested he relax. Forced to pay up, he grumbled about his bad day, only for the tension to escalate when he encountered a group outside, leading to a punch in the face. Though seemingly unrelated, this interlude highlighted the gritty reality surrounding Jiang Qing's youth. Back at Yan Mu's home, he considered spending survival points to unlock more abilities, including enhanced perception of others' fortunes. Frustrated at the slow pace of earning points, the system, with biting sarcasm, reminded him that life was tough. It suggested he could even improve his appearance with points. Contemplating this, Yan Mu's thoughts were interrupted by another call from Fang Yuxue. He reluctantly answered, only to hear her mother's voice, sweet-talking him into giving the family access to his wealth in exchange for reconciling with Fang Yuxue. Yan Mu snapped, telling her to stop bothering him. Shortly after, Yan Mu received the finalized contract for the properties he purchased. Meng Yao, noticing his glum demeanor, asked if he was okay. He apologized, and the real estate manager thanked him for his patronage. Wandering the streets of Jiangxing, Yan Mu encountered Fang Yuxue once again. She seemed to appear intentionally, and Yan Mu, weary of the constant run-ins, asked why she was following him, reiterating that they were done. Fang Yuxue revealed that her brother had gotten into trouble at a cyber cafe and owed $500,000. Worse, he had been kidnapped, and the captors demanded the money for his release. Yan Mu, unimpressed, coldly stated that her brother's problems were not his concern. Desperate, Fang Yuxue grabbed his hand and offered herself, promising to fulfill his physical desires if he helped. Yan Mu, disgusted, pulled away, telling her to have some self-respect and lamenting how far she'd fallen. Tears streaming, Fang Yuxue pleaded, saying her family was powerless to save her brother. Yan Mu, unable to fully suppress his compassion, reluctantly agreed to help, but only if they cut all ties afterward. Fang Yuxue resisted, insisting they were still family and couldn't simply walk away from each other. Yan Mu, visibly exhausted by the entire situation, told Fang Yuxue's brother that if they were truly family, there was no need to continue the conversation. Meng Yao, who was growing increasingly frustrated, accused Yan Mu of being cold-hearted, insisting that Fang Yuxue was truly suffering. Yan Mu, unmoved, simply stated that her problems were no longer his responsibility. Meng Yao paused, commenting that he wasn't always this unfeeling, and that she didn't understand what had gone wrong between him and Fang Yuxue, since their relationship once seemed solid. Yan Mu thought back to the pain and betrayal of his past life. Despite his internal struggle, he was resolute. Getting involved again would only bring more trouble. He told Manga to head home while he checked out the internet cafe himself, determined to end the matter once and for all. At the cafe, Fang Yuxue's brother was held captive, surrounded by thugs demanding the ransom. When he tried to argue, they laughed and threatened violence unless his family paid up. Outside, a guard tried to stop Yanmu from entering. Without hesitation, Yanmu punched him, knocking him to the ground. Once inside, the thugs recognized Yanmu, wondering why he had come. Calmly, Yanmu declared that there were too many of them, so he needed a boost. He swallowed a strength-enhancing pill, increasing his power significantly. One thug, who had previously targeted Mengyo, taunted Yanmu, reminding him of a debt. Yanmu coldly questioned why he should pay, and the brother, tied up, begged him to hand over the money to avoid escalating the situation. But Yanmu had no intention of complying. He exuded a dangerous red aura, warning everyone to keep still. When one of the thugs lunged, Yanmu struck with unyielding force, knocking him across the room. More goons surrounded Yanmu, but he fought back effortlessly, his enhanced strength making short work of them. Fang Yuxue's brother, shocked, demanded to know why Yanmu had taken so long to intervene, even suggesting that Yanmu should compensate him to keep quiet. Yanmu, perplexed, realized that the brother had no gratitude, only greed. In response, he slapped him, demanding to know when he'd grown so bold. Yanmu warned him to go home before he lost his temper entirely, reminding him that he'd only come because of Fang Yuxue's desperate plea. Just as Yanmu turned to leave, Madong and a mob of thugs blocked his exit. Madong, thirsting for revenge, ordered his men to kill Yanmu. Faced with overwhelming numbers, Yanmu's options were limited. The system intervened, offering an agility pill in exchange for more points. Yanmu consumed it, enhancing his speed and reflexes. He easily dodged a thrown brick and moved so quickly it seemed as if he were teleporting, dismantling Madong's men with ruthless efficiency. Madong found himself on the ground again, helpless against Yanmu's might. Yanmu asked why he plotted his death, and Madong, ever blunt, said it was payback for what Yanmu had done to him. Yanmu, amused by Madong's flawed logic, agreed it made sense, though it was unfortunate for Madong to be on the losing end. With time running short, Yanmu demanded compensation for the wasted effort and points spent. Desperate, Madong offered 20 million to avoid further punishment. Yanmu accepted, insisting on immediate payment. Shortly after, Yanmu's account was credited with 50 million, as Madong had neglected to transfer the 30 million owed from their last encounter. Yanmu dismissed Madong, who vowed to recover his losses one day. Turning to Fang Yuxue's brother, Yanmu coldly asked if he knew his way home. The brother, still ungrateful, spat out threats, claiming he'd never forget the humiliation. Yanmu, unimpressed, told him he should be grateful to be alive and warned him to stop using weak excuses for his failures. Tired of the pointless drama, Yanmu demanded the brother disappear. Another harsh lesson was delivered, leaving no doubt about who was in control. Yanmu dismissed the departing Fang Yuxue's brother, who threatened to tell their parents everything, believing it would cause trouble for Yanmu. Unbothered, Yanmu decided to check his system. Despite having gained 50 million, there was no change in his survival points. The system curtly explained that money obtained dishonestly didn't count. Yanmu grumbled, realizing even the system demanded moral earnings now. Back at the Fang household, the mother berated Fang Yuxue for failing to secure Yanmu, whom she disparagingly called trash. She questioned how Fang Yuxue could let her brother Xiaoyu suffer. Fang Yuxue tried explaining that Yanmu had completely severed ties with her, but Xiaoyu stormed in, battered and bruised. Their mother, relieved to see him, asked why he looked so beaten up. Xiaoyu blamed Fang Yuxue, claiming that instead of helping, Yanmu had humiliated him. Fang Yuxue was surprised to learn that Yanmu had intervened. Xiaoyu twisted the story, saying Yanmu had only shown up to make things worse, and his slap hurt more than the thug's beatings. He accused Yanmu of profiting from her suffering, claiming Yanmu's wealth came from extorting Madong. Their mother, incensed, declared Yanmu to be worse than an animal for using her daughter's pain. Fang Yuxue resolved to confront him, unsure if this explained his motives during their relationship. Meanwhile, Meng Yao questioned Yanmu's mood, wondering why he seemed upset with the system. She teased him about being beaten up by someone. Yanmu brushed it off, telling her to relax. When Meng Yao pressed, asking if he was still hung up on Fang Yuxue, their conversation was interrupted as Fang Yuxue arrived, demanding to talk. Meng Yao, taken aback, sarcastically asked if Fang Yuxue was joining them for dinner. Yanmu, unfazed, told her she wasn't welcome and asked why she was there. Fang Yuxue, furious, slammed her hand on the table, accusing him of beating her brother while dining with another woman. Yanmu clarified that Meng Yao was like a sister to him, but Fang Yuxue dismissed the notion, pressing him on why he'd harmed Xiaoyu if he'd gone to save him. Fang Yuxue insinuated that Yanmu was with Meng Yao out of spite. Frustrated, Yanmu demanded to know if she was delusional. Fang Yuxue accused him of flaunting his wealth to humiliate her family, suggesting he could have used money to solve everything. Yanmu reminded her of his poverty and declared he wouldn't waste a single coin on her vampire family. Enraged, Fang Yuxue denied being from a family of leeches while Meng Yao watched, confused. Fang Yuxue's voice rose as she accused Yanmu of moving on quickly. Yanmu told her to shut up, questioning why it bothered her so much and pointing out her obsession. He warned that if she kept believing her brother's lies, there was no need to talk again. Fang Yuxue lashed out, claiming Yanmu had always used her for money and tried to slap him, but he caught her wrist. He reminded her that their relationship was over, and she needed to stop acting irrationally. Breaking free, Fang Yuxue vowed he would regret this. Manga, bewildered, asked if Yanmu and Fang Yuxue had truly broken up. Yanmu confirmed it, suspecting Fang Yuxue's behavior was a ploy to regain his attention. Mengao, seeing Yanmu's goodness, wondered why Fang Yuxue treated him so poorly. Yanmu reassured her with a smile, encouraging her to eat so they could head home. The scene shifted to Nebula Group's office, where the president thanked Yanmu for his investment. Yanmu reviewed a project proposal, finally feeling optimistic about a promising development. However, while looking at the papers, Yanmu asks why the man is choosing to use low-quality materials. The president explains that they tried using high-quality materials, but the profit margins were too low, and people were refusing to cooperate. Our boy comments that this will be a big problem, but Penju says that at the start, they just need to pass the test, so there is no need to produce many. Yanmu agrees and suggests focusing sales primarily on communication companies. Penju is surprised he hadn't thought of that before and sees it as the best option to sell to them, especially since they constantly transmit signals. He only comments on the material, and our protagonist tells him to relax, saying he will find someone to secure what they need. Back on the streets of Jiangsheng, he spends a lot of time there. Looking at the card, he knows the best thing would be to form a partnership with the Tang Company, but he has no idea how or why they would cooperate with Nebula. That's when he looks to the side and sees a man grabbing a girl by the hair, telling her to shut up. He quickly recognizes her as the girl who humiliated him at the real estate office, and it seems she's now working as a waitress. Some other men approach and demand the man let the girl go, or they will call the police. But man, in this city, everyone seems ready to stir up trouble, because out comes another knife. Then the savior of girls who humiliate him arrives, grabbing the man by the arm. The man warns that the Lord is interested in this woman, so it would be best not to interfere. Oh boy, it's Medong again. He can't see a girl with 2 big assets at this age without causing trouble. Our boy then begins to slightly twist the man's wrist and asks if he's sure he wants to continue. The desperate man immediately yells for him to let go, saying it hurts too much. Our hero finally releases him, warning that it would be best if he's never seen there again. The coward runs away, and the girl thanks our protagonist. He asks why she is working there instead of at the company, and she explains that it's her day off and she's taking on extra work to help pay for her father's surgery. Our boy then asks if she knows Madame. She says that Guy has been trying to offer her some kind of support, but she has always refused, and if it weren't for him today, things would have gone badly. Our boy acknowledges this and tells her to rest, thanking her once again. With that, she leaves. He takes out his phone and tells the bald guard to keep an eye on Madame, who should be at the hospital at this moment. The coward is there with Fang Yuxue, telling her he arranged everything she wanted so she could stay a little closer. She mentions that Yanmu must have fallen into their trap and that the fun part is just beginning. Meidong asks what they will do if things go wrong again. She simply tells him to shut up and obey because she's the one helping him with his revenge. Besides, there's no need to worry because Yanmu is deeply in love with her. Soon he would soften up and show up to apologize. Ah, here comes this villainess plotting against our boy. She calls him and invites him to dinner, saying there's something good to eat. She apologizes for what happened earlier and says they need to reconcile. Then she suggests meeting again at the restaurant where they had their first date. She turns to Meidong and says her part is done, and the rest is up to him. She wants 30 million when the job is done, and then he will also get what he wants. Hold on, is she really selling herself for revenge? Now that's hatred. And she even wants to get back together with the guy. However, it seems that Yanmu is already aware that the two are working together to ruin him. He then asks the system how many points he needs to make an upgrade. It responds that he'll need to earn at least 20 more. He asks how many points can be bought with 30 million points, and the system tells him 10. He wonders how many millions this cursed system is stealing from him. With that, he gets up, saying he will have to find a way to make this easier. He then calls Mr. Kong and tells him he will need some useful information for tomorrow. In the next scene, he's arriving at the restaurant. The same woman who never changes her clothes is already seated at the table, not even bothering to dress up for the date with our protagonist. As soon as he sits down, she says she ordered all his favorites. She asks if he wants more drinks and apologizes for everything that happened recently. The system then informs him that there are sleeping drugs in the wine she's serving. However, due to the system's evolution, it poses no threat to him. Fang Yuxue is wondering why he hasn't drunk it yet. Our protagonist takes a sip. He says that nothing that happened matters and they can leave it in the past. She remarks that she never imagined things would end like this. She always believed they would get married in this life. Yanmu states that if he married her, her family would drain him dry until he died penniless. She slams the table angrily, wondering why he still isn't asleep. He asks if he said anything wrong and she responds no, but that he is all she has in life. She then asks why her family pampers that brother of hers so much. She replies that it's natural to pamper a brother, while internally she's seething, still trying to figure out why he hasn't passed out. At that moment, our protagonist slams his face onto the table. She approaches, asking if he's okay, but you already know she's gloating inside. Smiling, she says he thinks he's strong, but in the end, he will lose everything to her. The scene then shifts to a hotel. Our boy was asleep and wakes up. Man, I thought he was faking it, pretending to sleep, but he actually passed out. Turns out our boy knew about the trap and still fell into it. He's a genius. He wakes up next to that girl from the real estate office who immediately calls him a bastard. He puts his hand on his face, saying he's sure he was having lunch with Fang Yuxue. So how did he end up there? The girl, however, claims that he was the one who messaged her, telling her to show up, and she never imagined she'd be treated worse than an animal. She runs away, saying she was wrong to think he was a good person. But the rascal is smiling, saying that if they want to fight him, he's ready to play. Did he do it on purpose? Or did he mess with her while pretending he wasn't? Or maybe nothing happened, and he just slept, who knows? The scene then changes to a cafe. There are Fang Yuxue, Madong, and then the last fool arrives. She tells Fang Yuxue she did everything as instructed and the images are on her phone. Fang Yuxue thanks her, tells her she can leave, and says she will get a call when they need her again. But she warns her to keep those photos safe, as the plan could change. And of course, if she loses them, it won't be good for her father, who's in the hospital. Madong compliments Fang Yuxue, saying he never imagined she could be this cruel. She replies that Yanmu is the ungrateful one and everything she's doing is just taking back what was supposed to be hers. Madong says the 30 million will be worth it, and if the plan works, he has nothing to complain about. She then tells him to hurry because it's time for Yanmu to pay for what he did. Today, she would make him taste what it's like to be used. The scene changes to a hotel lobby where our boy asks what she means by that. Madong says it seems he doesn't know what he did, but that they're seeking justice. Our protagonist responds that he's a law-abiding citizen, so he has nothing to fear. However, Fang Yuxue says that last night they had dinner and he still did that with another woman. Madong adds that everyone already knows about the girl he allegedly forced into his room and the police are on their way. Even the reporters are there, and if this leaks, his life will be ruined. But Yanmu asks if the two of them think he's an idiot. That's when Fang Yuxue starts noticing that she and Madong are the ones being recorded. Madong insists, saying that Yanmu doesn't know what's good for him. However, our boy just tells him to wait a moment because he needs to make a call. At that moment, the secretary says Madong's and Miss Fang Yuxue's plans and threats have already been posted online. The fool's cigarette drops to the ground and he starts trembling, demanding to know what's going on. The reporters begin shouting, stating there's plenty of evidence that Madong used his influence to suppress numerous women. Additionally, his company is deep in debt. The reporters surround him and Fang Yuxue, demanding explanations for everything that's happened. The system then states that now that Madong's company is going bankrupt, it will probably be auctioned off. I'm not entirely sure, but I think the girl with the red hair is Tang Ming. She told our boy they paid her 500,000 to be part of all this. Our boy said he had enough evidence to put Madong behind bars for life. He then questioned whether she was trying to help him or Madong. Our boy leaves the scene, saying he's going to take over that fool's company. Meanwhile, Fang Yuxue seethes with rage. 2 days later, everything is being announced on TV, and Ming Yao learns about it. In interviews, Fang Yuxue always claimed she had no idea who Madong was, trying to distance herself from the subject. This makes Ming Yao realize that Villainous wasn't a good person. Back in his room, our boy wonders why he hasn't received any survival points after taking down Madong's company. He looks at the system and asks for just 1 point, complaining that it's been a long time since he earned anything. It's a very unfair world. That's when he receives enough points to upgrade the system. The window shines and suddenly a pink bunny appears out of nowhere. He stares at it, wondering what kind of crazy entity it is. He gets up, wanting to know how this is supposed to help him. But suddenly, the little creature vanishes. Whoa! A small hand grabs him, saying he's a good boy. You all know what's coming, right? Oh, more well-behaved than I expected. Well, well-behaved in terms of clothes, but not in actions. The girl is aggressive. Actually, never mind, she's not well-behaved at all, folks. She asks if he's satisfied and tells him to leave a 5-star review. At that moment, Meng Yao appears at the door and asks if he's seen the news, but he tells her not to come in. However, she opens the door, recounting everything that happened with Fang Yuxue. Man, I thought she wouldn't see the scene, but it's too late. She's already face-to-face with everything. She's left speechless and apologizes in despair. Our boy yells at the system, and she remarks that she thought it was a little cuter. Meng Yao, truly pure, faints upon seeing the scene. The system-like figure seems to place a cure on her face. Meng Yao then wakes up and asks who she is. Only in this work could something like this happen. She introduces herself as Yanmu's system. She says to call her Xiao Yu and informs that from now on, it will all be living together. Meng Yao, completely confused, asks Yanmu if by any chance she's dreaming. Meanwhile, at the Feng family house, the mother is trying to console the daughter, saying she'll find a guy soon. The brother, however, as always, is furious, saying she can't get anything right. The father comments that now that Meidong is in prison, the money they were supposed to earn is gone too. And he tells his daughter that she will have to find another rich man to secure the family's future. Fang Yuxue, however, starts getting angry, wondering why she has to find a man to support this family. And with that, she begins to hate everyone. It is at this moment that the mysterious Su, a shadowy figure, asks if she wants to make a deal. The shadow introduces itself as Sue and says it can fulfill her desires. However, she lowers her head, thinking she must be hallucinating. But then the shadow transforms into a person, saying it knows she won't believe it, which is why it wants to make this deal. Sue tells her that she was used, abused, and abandoned by her ex-boyfriend, so how can she not be angry and full of hate? She admits that she is indeed full of hate, and the shadow offers to make a contract that will give her the revenge she wants. Instantly, she starts being consumed by the shadows, saying what she wants is money. It doesn't matter. One moment she's regretful and angry with her family, and the next she's ready to ruin our protagonist. At that moment, her brother asks why she's so quiet and if she doesn't care about the family's future. Seeing her staring at him, he questions why she's looking at him like that and why she's so useless. Her mother then says her brother is just stressed and she shouldn't take his words to heart, asking if she has thought about what she suggested. Sue then explains that she only needs to gather information about this particular boss and hand it over because she will do whatever it takes. Even her mother is startled by how motivated she has become. Let's see who the boss is this time. It can't possibly be Madon again. Back at Yanmu's house, he explains everything to Meng Yao. Apparently, he really did explain everything since she's talking about time travel. Man, he already spilled everything. No holding back. Xiaoyu, however, warns that time travel comes at a high price. For example, Yanmu is now obligated to complete missions for the rest of his life or he could die at any moment. Suddenly, Yanmu gets up, saying he has something to take care of. The two girls are curious and ask where he's going. He explains that he's just going to meet Mr. Tang to check out a car. With that, Xiaoyu gives Meng Yao a kiss on the cheek. Is this going to be a forbidden romance? Oh no. Actually, she used some kind of devilish magic and poor Meng Yao fell asleep. Yanmu grabs her arm, asking what she did. She explains that she altered Meng Yao's memories because it's not good for her to know everything. At least the system seems to know what it's doing, because if left to this madman, he'd tell everyone. However, he lost his survival point for doing so and is frustrated. But she doesn't seem to care much. And the fool falls to the ground, thinking he can hit the system and have the power bounce back to him. She even jokes, saying it seems the system has a few bugs. She then tells them to hurry and check out the car. But our boy says he feels like going alone. However, she explains that if they stay too far apart, she'll suddenly teleport to his side. Already imagining the scare Tang would get, he realizes he has no choice. Man, this little system is sometimes pretty friendly. The scene shifts to a shop in the city. Of course, they bought some new clothes for her, and our boy asks why she seems impatient. She simply says she's thinking about the best way to improve his skills. But after a moment, she says there are only ordinary people around, so why worry about fighting skills now? Xiaoyu warns that eventually he might encounter people who aren't ordinary. Suddenly, Mr. Tang appears, greeting them. He apologizes, saying they were a bit late. Then a man approaches Zhang and asks if this is the level of the city of Zhang. His name is Liu Zi, and he's the young master of the Liu family. Yanmu immediately asks who this jerk is, but actually he already knows who this guy is from his past life. Tang pulls Liu Zi's hand away and introduces him to our protagonist. However, Liu Zi doesn't seem too happy with Tang and questions his behavior. What's going on? You just pulled your hand off his shoulder. Tang turns and says he had something to resolve today, but even so, he insisted on coming along. Ah, quite the couple, aren't they? Our boy then interrupts, saying he didn't realize it was Mr. Liu. For a second, he thought he was Tang's driver. Obviously, the fool is seething with rage, asking what this is all about. Our boy apologizes, saying it was unintentional and extends a handshake. Liu agrees, maybe thinking he hasn't seen much of the world, which is why he judges people this way. However, some energy starts flowing towards Liu Zi, and Xiaoyu notices he was absorbing luck. She hugs our boy and asks when he's going to see the car because she wants to watch a movie with him later tonight. Our protagonist invites Tang to take a look at the cars too, and he agrees, but he doesn't like the fact that the two are walking ahead of him. This guy has some mental issues. Tang turns around, saying that the city of Jiang really is too small for so many people, so he might as well leave, but he's furious at being overshadowed by the protagonist. The relationship dynamics here are really peculiar. Liu Zi says if he wants, the Tang family could disappear overnight. But our boy approaches and asks what would happen if everyone found out that the Liu family produces fake wine. The fool is immediately frightened and asks how he knows. Our boy simply walks away, saying it doesn't matter, but he should know that he has that information. With that, they leave while talking about the car. Meanwhile, Liu Zi swears he will make Yanmu disappear from this world. Night falls, and our boy is thanking Mr. Tang, who also thanks him for helping to get rid of Mr. Liu Zi. With that, Tang leaves, saying he will consider the possible cooperation with the Nebula group. That's when Xiaoyu says she needs to have a serious conversation with our boy. She explains that the seeds have infiltrated this world. He's just as confused as we are, so she clarifies that the seeds come from another spacetime and can grant humans abilities. They incubate powers similar to what he receives. He demands to know what she's talking about and asks her to explain properly. She then says that the seeds will compete for the spacetime, which currently has no master. Eventually, the planet would become a purgatory. Our boy is still as lost as we are, trying to understand what this masterless spacetime and seeds business is. Explain it. woman. She explains that this place is without a master because when he traveled back in time, the entity controlling everything disappeared, and apparently survival points wouldn't be enough to maintain the stability of this place. She reveals that Liu Zi has a parasitic seed that allows him to drain luck from others when he comes into contact with them. Now it makes sense why he loves clinging to Tang. He's still confused when suddenly he receives a call from his father. He asks what's up, and his father says they have a guest at home and asks when he will arrive. Our boy replies that he just finished work and is on his way home. The scene shifts to the family home's parking lot, and in the next scene, he's already at the door. His father, of course, asks why he has a little bunny on his shoulder. He says he found it on the street and thought it was so cute that he decided to take it. Suddenly, a girl named Shou Zhu grabs the bunny, saying she wants it because it's adorable. Our boy thinks that apparently the event from his past life is happening much earlier. At that moment, his uncle and the girl's father, Yan Zhuang, appears, saying that our boy is as energetic as ever. The protagonist's mother asks if he remembers his uncle and cousin. Our boy replies that for some reason, he can't remember them, while internally questioning if these bastards are here again because of the 500,000 lottery winnings. Yan Zhuang immediately mentions seeing him arrive in a luxury car from the window. Our boy lies, saying that the car actually belongs to his boss, who asked him to deliver it again tomorrow. The uncle, however, continues to praise him, saying that if the bosses trust him this much, he surely has a bright future. He mentions hearing that he's friends with the boss of the Nebula group. Our boy simply responds that they know each other but aren't close. However, the uncle keeps buttering him up, saying that knowing the boss of a company means he has endless potential. Then the uncle mentions he has something else, and the father tells him to go ahead since they're all family. The deceitful uncle then claims it's great news about an investment that would bring great profit. The annoying child is stretching the system bunny's face, and the protagonist's father says they don't have money to invest, so it's better not to bring it up. But the uncle says not to worry. If they invest 100,000 this month, next month it will become 150,000 with no risk. The poor knave father already asks his wife if they shouldn't at least invest 20,000. But the sneaky uncle suggests that since they made some good money, maybe they should invest 300,000 to earn even more. He turns to our boy and asks him to help convince his parents because the project is really good. However, our boy simply says to drop the idea. If they only came to talk about investments, they might as well leave now. And the bunny gives him a playful punch in the face. The uncle, annoyed, says he's offering a great chance, so why is he acting this way? Even his father scolds him, wanting to know why he's treating his uncle like that. The uncle complains, saying that even if he doesn't want to make a lot of money, there's no need to ruin his parents' financial chances. The father tells him to relax, they'll think about it. However, our boy warns his father to stay alert because he hasn't spoken to this uncle in over 10 years. It's clear that showing up out of nowhere like this is no good. But the uncle slams the table, saying that if it weren't for their family's situation, they would have already invested much more and wouldn't have even offered this opportunity. Our boy then asks him to pass on the project number so he can take a look, and if he can't do that, he should take his daughter and leave. The uncle hesitates, saying it's an internal and secret project, so no one can know about it. Our boy asks if by any chance a man named Yan Wuxu got involved with the girlfriend of a boss, and now they need 300,000 or he'll be killed. The uncle, trembling, asks how he knows. The daughter throws herself away, screaming that the bunny is biting her. The father goes to check, and she says she wants to eat rabbit meat, so they should kill it today. Man being Chinese, you know they might just want to cook it. He immediately tells the bunny it's going in the pot. But as he approaches, he gets a nasty cut. Our boy says the bunny is quite energetic, so it's best not to mess with it. He tells them to stop causing trouble, as their biggest problem is their lack of money. With that, the uncle leaves, cursing everyone, saying they'll end up working on construction sites for the rest of their lives. Our boy simply tells him to be careful on the way back. The father then comments that he never imagined something like this would happen, and the mother says she's really getting old and easy to fool. Our boy just advises them to be careful because nothing in this world comes for free. Meanwhile, at Fang Yuxue's house, the villainess, as always, is ready for a fight, saying the 300,000 had already been transferred to her mother's account. Apparently, Yuxue even gave her brother money, and he bought a new car. The mother wants to know where she's getting this money. The daughter just says she found a young, rich boss who owns 2 apartments, and they can live there. At this, the mother asks if she's really following the list of men she passed to her. Man, the mother even had a list of men her daughter should choose in the city. Now that's a prepared mother. She's excited, saying she needs to tell the father the good news. She then closes the door and enters the room. The shadow says this is how they'll seal the deal and asks if it's easy. She recalls the moment she was beside a man who said she was much prettier than he imagined. The shadow told her she only needed to get closer and do nothing else. The man shrouded in shadows said he would give 300,000 as a gift to the Fang family. Now the shadow asks what she thinks of that and if she wants to continue. She replies that her family definitely needs money and she's willing to do anything. The scene shifts to our boy's real estate office. Kong Ru enters and informs him that the construction on the east side has already begun. He then asks who the new person is, but the boy brought version 2.0 of the system to work. He explains that she's the new secretary and asks if there's anything else Kong wants to say. Kong hands him a notebook saying someone is interested in buying Meidong's company for 100 million. Yanmu finds it strange as there had been no prior interest, yet suddenly someone is willing to pay 100 million. Our boy tells Kong to handle the negotiation but warns that it's not that important. He knows that with the city center's relocation in a few years, that place will lose some of its value, though it's still valuable at the moment. Kong then mentions there seems to be a black market auction happening tonight. Our boy asks what kind of auction it is, and Kong explains that it involves Fang Yuxue treasures. It seems there will also be spiritual items, but unfortunately, they don't have the money. Yanmu tells him not to worry and just asks where the auction will take place. The scene shifts to the streets of Tay. Man, we changed locations for once. Our boy comments that it doesn't look much different from a regular commercial street, so is this really the black market auction? Meanwhile, Xiao Yu says she wants to go shopping. At that moment, an old man, who doesn't seem suspicious at all, appears and asks if they're there for the auction. Yanmu wants to know how the old man knows this. He responds that they look completely lost and offers to show them the way but warns them to be careful, as young people often get tricked here. Our boy thanks him and apologizes for the inconvenience. The man then leads him to the lower city and explains everything about the area. Our boy comments that he never imagined it would be so big. The only issue is that it costs 2,000 just to participate, and our boy laments his poor state. The old man thanks him and advises him to familiarize himself with the place before getting involved in anything. While walking around, Xiao Yu mentions that the aura of the seeds there is very strong. Our boy says the black market is all about money. Moreover, human desire is so high here that it's common for seeds to be attracted. However, Xiao Yu seems impressed by how quickly things are evolving. At that moment, someone asks if the esteemed gambler has decided which piece to bet on. The crouching man seems to analyze and say that both stones have the same weight, the same shape, and the same material. Meanwhile, the old man on the ground urges him to make a choice, saying it's his last chance. Our boy quickly notices that the stone on the right is glowing red. He immediately suspects that it's the one containing the treasure. The old man announces that the Xiao family boy has made a bet and calls everyone to join in. People start betting on whether or not the boy will be right. The organizer announces that there's already 200,000 on the line and asks if anyone else wants to join. Apparently, the poor boy's family is facing difficulties. The math genius decided that gambling was the best way to make money. He's banging his hand on the ground, hoping he doesn't ruin his father's future. However, our boy steps in and says he'll bet 300,000 on the boy. The old man warns that if the Xiao family loses, they'll have to pay 3 million as a penalty. Our boy says if they want, he'll bet 3 million then. At this point, the old man realizes the danger and suggests he stick to the 300,000. The blue-haired boy then asks if our boy is new to this place since all the games are rigged to some extent. But Yanmu appears unfazed, saying he's sure he'll win this. With that, he moves forward with Xiao and Wei, and it seems like the man needs to check what's inside the stone. The scene shifts to an old man stating that inside that place is a piece of jasper worth over 500,000. Oh, I see. They looked at the first stone, which wasn't chosen. The gambler then tells him to open the stone chosen by the boy. The old man begins the process and he turns to our boy's girlfriend, suggesting she should leave him before they both end up broke. However, she replies for him to watch the defeat he's about to face. At that moment, the appraiser announces that there appears to be some sort of ruby inside. At that moment, the fool realizes he's screwed. The announcer declares that it contains a blood pigeon ruby. Not the most epic name, but alright. People start saying it's impossible while our boy is confused, wondering what that is. Xiao Yu explains that this ruby is of the highest quality and is worth at least 1 million. The boy from the Xiao family is immediately excited by its value. Our boy then turns to the betting man and asks if he has the money to hand over. The man replies that he doesn't know who he's dealing with and orders him to swipe the card already. Of course, he swears he won't forget this. Our boy is already happy, thinking that with this ability, the black market is an easy way to make money. That's when someone calls out to him, and he turns to see the boy from the Xiao family. The boy introduces himself as Xiao Cheng and offers to help him get into the auction if he wants to go. Our boy turns around, curious, and the boy apologizes if he's intruding. But our boy introduces himself and says that if Xiao Cheng can really do that, he'd be eager to see the auction. Xiao Cheng assures him that tonight he will be part of it all. Yet Mu already knows that people were calling this boy Master Xiao, so his identity is definitely not simple. A while later, they're in the VIP area of the auction, and the boy thanks our boy for trusting him. He explains that he has a black card that allows him to participate because otherwise he couldn't afford to be there. Yanmu asks him to explain the situation. The boy says the only way to access the auction without restrictions is by having one of the 3 existing black cards. One belongs to the market owners themselves, another to a mysterious force, and the last one to the Xiao family. However, in recent years, the Liu family seems to be gaining more influence there. And now that the Xiao family is facing difficulties, they seem to be getting discarded. Xiao Yu asks if by the Liu family he means the young master Liu Zi. Cheng asks if they know each other. Our boy replies that they don't know each other well. They've only met once. Suddenly, someone announces that the ruby he delivered was appraised at 5 million. The woman asks if he wants to sell it, but he says he wants it to be part of tonight's auction. Time passes and it's finally time for the auction. The presenter removes the cloth, revealing a Ming Dynasty vase. The starting price is 20,000. Xiao Cheng asks our boy if he's not interested in these items. He explains that he's just there to observe opportunities, not necessarily to buy everything. The boy says that among all the items, the only truly interesting one is the ruby vase. The gavel falls and the porcelain sells for 300,000. Our boy notes that the vase is surrounded by a strange black smoke, so it definitely brings bad luck. The presenter then announces the next item, which hasn't been seen in years in this place. It's the ruby that Xiao Cheng is auctioning. The woman explains the item's discovery and is about to announce the starting bid when someone immediately offers 5 million. From the audience, a man says this is the ruby Xiao Cheng obtained. The bids keep climbing, 6, 10, and 30 million. Master Liu continues to raise the price, saying he wants it. But with such a high price, the betting man suggests taking it from Xiao Cheng. However, Liu Zi shouts, bidding 60 million. Yan Mu didn't expect that scoundrel to be there. While others are fuming over his relentless bidding, our boy raises it to 70 million. Xiao Cheng warns him to be careful, as it's not wise to take anything from the Liu family. But Shou Yu tells him to stay calm and keep watching. Yan Mu recognizes Liu Zi as the same poor man from Tang's domain. At that moment, the betting man shouts that it's the same bastard who bet 300,000 on Xiao Cheng earlier. The bidding reaches 80 million and Liu Zi taunts, saying he's ready to play with the boy. Xiao Cheng warns our boy again to let it go, but he responds that he's going to make Liu Zi spend as much money as possible. Instantly, he raises the bid to 180 million. Liu Zi is shocked, wondering where this poor man got so much money. The presenter counts down once, twice. Liu Zi raises it to 300 million. Man, this auction is fierce. No slow increments here. Our boy is impressed, saying Liu Zi is quite brave. It goes up 400, then 500, 600, 700, 800 million. Xiao Cheng knows the bid has far surpassed its true value. Soon, the auction will be cancelled. Liu Zi raises it to 1.2 billion and asks if the boy will continue this game. Our boy says he's done. Liu Zi is very generous and rich, so he can have the ruby. The woman counts to 3, strikes the gavel, and declares it's sold. The boss asks how they're going to get that much money, but Liu Zi scoffs, asking who said he'd pay. In another room, he's complaining that he already made the transfer. However, the receptionist tells him that until the 1.2 billion is in the account, he will be banned from the black market. At that moment, the fool realizes he's in trouble. Liu Zi wonders why his usual strategies aren't working today. The shadow of luck tells him that the man he's playing against has a power greater than his, preventing him from altering fate. The receptionist informs him that because the sum is so large, he has 3 days to gather the money, and in that time, the ruby will be reserved for him. He pretends to agree, claiming it must be an issue with his bank, and that he'll return soon. Meanwhile, on the streets of the black market, Xiao Cheng thanks our boy for everything. Our boy replies that he didn't do it for him, he already had issues with Liu Zi. Xiao Cheng reveals that Liu Zi seems to have a scheme for paying very little for things he wins at auction. Our boy asks how that's possible, but Xiao Cheng says he doesn't know, it's affecting the entire black market. That's when Liu Zi appears, mocking Xiao Cheng for having a good eye but no skill. He threatens to make our boy's life miserable, and Xiao Cheng warns that it's best to leave because Liu Zi could really harm them. But Yan Mu steps in, telling him not to worry. The fool wanted to help, but Xiao Cheng tells him to let our boy handle it. Liu Zi prepares a punch, calling Yan Mu brave for being the first to provoke the young master. But he takes a punch to the chin before he can react, with our boy dismissing his threats. Strangely, something happens to our boy's power levels, and Xiao Cheng has no idea what just occurred. The seed inside Liu Zi starts to panic, declaring that the attack failed and urging him to kill Yan Mu. The fool is losing his mind, demanding to know where he got the courage to strike him. Yan Mu calmly states that the power Liu Zi relies on lacks any physical form, proving that he's weak and afraid. The villain retorts that once our boy dies, he'll take everything he has. But Yan Mu is already kicking him in the stomach, questioning how he dares to speak when he's so weak. The seed pleads for Liu Zi to flee as his power is being drained. Liu Zi asks how Yan Mu can devour this entity and who he really is. Yan Mu is confused by the question. Liu Zi smirks, hinting that Yan Mu's angel hasn't told him the truth about everything. He tries to make an offer, but takes another kick to the stomach from our boy, who declares that he's in no position to negotiate. A desperate spirit urges Liu Zi to escape, saying he's already lost half his power. Oddly, Xiao Yu's powers also seem to have vanished. Oh, actually, Yan Mu has absorbed them all. Liu Zi decides to run, warning Yan Mu that next time he'll destroy him. Xiao Cheng hesitantly asks what just happened. Our boy isn't feeling well. He has no idea where this power came from or what's happening. Xiao Cheng asks if he's okay, and Yan Mu says it's best to leave quickly. That's when the bunny pulls on his pants. It tries to explain that it has been with him for a long time, he just hadn't noticed. Xiao Cheng reassures him, saying he won't reveal the secret, since he's seen many strange things as a child too. He tells our boy that he sees great talent in him, and that if he ever wants to become a treasure analyst for the Xiao family, just let him know. But Yanmu explains that he's a businessman and unfortunately can't come to the black market often. The friend thanks him and says it's fine. He'll bring him another gift later. Our boy hands him a card saying to reach out if anything comes up. Not only is Xiao Cheng a good person, but he knows that this guy's family will rise to dominate the city again. Xiao Cheng directs him to follow an alley that leads to which street? Of course, Jiangcheng, the only street in the entire city. Yanmu asks Xiao Yu to explain everything that happened, but a system message shows that she can't respond to any commands at the moment. He gets up, wondering if she can't even talk. Seeing she remains unresponsive, he places her on his shoulder, realizing they'll need to go home. 3 days pass and she still hasn't recovered. The system is undergoing updates. Considering the conversion rules and the money he's been earning, he estimates he's accumulated another 12 survival points. He calls Meng Yao. He finds himself in front of a mansion, and she says he seems excited about the house. He downplays it, saying it's nothing special. As long as she can live comfortably, that's enough for him. She looks up, saying she'd love to own a place like that one day. But here come the duo, Fang Yuxue and her beloved Su Fei. It looks like the boy is drained and exhausted. Our boy asks what they're doing there, and Meng Yao is speechless. Su Fei then accuses him of leaving a good woman like Fang Yuxue to be with a high school girl. Our boy chooses to ignore him and pulls Meng Yao away. However, Su Fei shouts, asking what's the deal with him trying to buy Madong's company. Our boy responds that he sold it as soon as he bought it because a company like that only brings bad luck. At that moment, Meng Yao asks what this business about having a company is, and our boy explains that he won the lottery and bought it recently. Meng Yao then says she now understands why Yuxue has been more interested in him lately. Our boy tells her not to worry about it and to just ignore those people if she runs into them in the future. However, he notices that Su Fei has a deathly aura while Fang Yuxue has a different kind of aura. Meng Yao then pulls out 2 amusement park tickets and asks if he wants to go with her. Our boy agrees, saying it's a good chance for both of them to relax a bit. The scene shifts to the amusement park, where she's talking about roller coasters. She keeps talking about the scariest rides, and he wonders when she became such a thrill seeker. They hand a plush toy to the bear mascot and walk around chatting about the park. But wait, who's this person in the bear costume? Does anyone remember her? Or hold on, blue hair, isn't this the girl who worked at that real estate office? Maybe not, because she's remembering the boss scolding her about delivering some papers. Our boy then plays a ring toss game and lands all 10 rings perfectly. He wins a panda plush and the game vendor praises him, saying he looks like a pro while begging him not to return. He gives the panda to Meng Yao, who says she loves the gift. But then he notices the girl in the bear costume being pulled away. Even costume workers aren't safe. These people are relentless. Meng Yao calls out to the girl, and our boy asks if she knows her. She explains that the girl was her senior, 2 years older, and talented in music. But after graduating, she never heard from her again. Broad daylight doesn't know boundaries. Someone tries to silence the girl. Meng Yao tells them to stop, but our boy advises her not to get involved. He asks her to hold the bunny and approaches the men, demanding they release the girl or he'll call the police. The man with blue hair asks who he thinks he is to meddle in their business. Our boy introduces himself as Lai Feng, clearly making up a name. The man slaps his phone away and asks if he has a death wish. The others carrying the girl say they'll have to deal with this troublemaker first. They step forward, telling him to stop playing the hero. Meng Yao tries calling the police, but a vendor warns it's pointless. They've been doing this all week and always flee before the police arrive. Meanwhile, our boy is dodging punches and feeding them back with precision. The last fool tries sneaking up behind him but gets a kick to the face as our boy twists his body skillfully. Wow, this guy is touch-starved, clinging to him like that. He receives an elbow to the face from his troubles. Our boy then picks up the girl in the bear costume, telling her not to move, though she's barely conscious enough to do so. The police arrive and ask what's happening. After Meng Yao explains, they find themselves in the hospital. Our boy has to recount the entire situation. He then asks the police why that area is being used for human trafficking by someone called Boss Hu. The truth is, he knows all about it from past life events. The officer explains that Boss Hu owns an entertainment company and is suspected of drug trafficking as well. That's when the girl in the bear costume wakes up, saying she has proof. She shows a piece of evidence she stole from the company where she was often locked in the basement. She managed to escape several times but was always recaptured. The police thank her for the evidence, saying it's extremely valuable and will be kept confidential. The girl vows to gather more evidence to put the man behind bars. Our boy commends Miss Qin for her courage. He offers her a job at his company once it's all over. Suspicious, she asks who he is. The officer explains that he's the one who saved her today. Yanmu turns to the police and asks if he can leave. They agree, and the next scene shows him back in his room. Strangely, everything is turned off and he wonders why his parents aren't there. Suddenly, the system window opens with a bang. A message informs him that he will make a new journey since he's in a safe place and the system will restart. He then finds himself in front of a statue, wondering why it looks different from last time. The writing on the wall describes being born in the wild world but appearing for the first time in the imperial world. He's completely bewildered, with no clue what it means. That's when Shou Yu reappears as a woman explaining that these writings tell the story of a god's birth. Another part mentions that since birth, the world was empty and peaceful, and the being was there only to observe and gather treasures. But then a visitor from the heavens arrived, and they fought for more than 10 days. Unfortunately, after the war, the being couldn't protect the treasures. In battle, he killed over 10,000 bandits, but still couldn't save everyone. In the end, he sealed himself away with what remained, waiting for the right time to be reborn in this world. Man, I'm just as confused as you, Yanmu, and everyone else with this chaotic story. Xiao Yu explains that the so-called seeds are entities that can destroy this world. The message mentioned that in the cave there are countless treasures, but they are not to be stolen or used. Indeed, there are many treasures. Our girl is greedy. Our boy asks what the point of being there is if they can't take anything. Xiao Yu explains that he will receive his first mission from the system gods in this place. Then appears the demon trial, with the reward being the Kanglang mind technique. The demon tells our boy that the first trial is a mental demon, which he will only understand once it begins. He then asks what this Kanglang mind technique is as it's the reward. She explains that it is a technique created by the god of creation himself, capable of eliminating countless enemies with a single move. It's fundamental and the origin of all martial arts. He asks if this will make him invincible, and she says he'll only find out if he presses yes on the system. He immediately accepts. The system informs him that the challenge will begin and be limited to 60 minutes. The mental trial starts with voices telling him that if he gives the money, she will marry him. Man, even a clone of himself appears, telling him to pay attention to the voices in his soul. Our boy is desperate, suffering, saying he has nothing to do with the Fang family anymore. Man, the Fang family traumatized him deep in his soul. The printed version says that Fang Yuxue is even working with Madame, so she will never let him escape. The tragedy of his past life will repeat itself, no matter what he does. He remembers his father giving money, which he foolishly handed over to Fang Yuxue's family. The voice begins asking if he doesn't want revenge. Now that he has money, it's the perfect chance to make them pay for everything. Our boy is in pain, saying he can't take it anymore. But he refuses to be trapped by this fate or let any of it happen again. He punches and destroys the clone. It disappears, but not before saying that he is still too young. Apparently, he had already gone through 99 cycles of this. Xiao Yu knew he just needed to endure a little longer. Then, our boy appears, having completed the trial. Even Xiao Yu is surprised, asking if he's finished, to which he replies yes. The only strange thing is that he doesn't see an option to collect the reward. Suddenly, he is surrounded by an aura and appears to receive the Kanglang mind technique. There's something about 9 forms, 6 techniques, and 4 Cs, totally incomprehensible. But one thing is clear, it's powerful. Even he doesn't fully understand it, but he feels as if he's known it since birth. I think he glimpses memories of the god's movements, seeing how he slaughtered thousands of enemies. Then Xiao Yu tells him that time is running out and it's time to leave. Man, they're teleporting back home already. What's going on? Oh wait, actually they were already home. They were just in another world and have now returned to reality. Heh, I'm losing it. He notices his attributes have risen to level 24 and he's gained 2,000 survival points. Xiao Yu admits she has no idea what happened. It might be related to his breakthrough. He credits the system, but she reminds him that the rules are set by the gods. With that, she leaves the room saying she's going to sleep. Something catches Yanmu's attention. He bends down and picks up a book from the floor. He sits down to examine it, knowing that the gods never give him anything for free. He recalls that in the memories he saw of the god, the man seemed obsessed with martial arts. Strangely, his system appears to have a mini-system of its own, urging him to collect fragments of the primordial god. This would help her win the reincarnation race and become the master of time and space. The system won't stop nagging, so she swats it away, telling it to disappear. Then she reappears in another place, and the system declares this is the last time they will meet. But once he reincarnates, he will become the owner of this world once again. With that, the mini-system vanishes. Whether it's hers, his, or both is unclear. It's all a bit confusing. At that moment, she notices that the god's will has completely disappeared. Back at the Tang family house, someone asks our boy why that girl from last time isn't with him. He says she had things to do and asks if young Master Tang is interested in her. The truth is, since last night, Xiao Yu has vanished. The system also seems to have some limited functions and he doesn't know what's happening. He wishes he knew where she went. After all, she once said that if she stayed too far away, she would be teleported back to him. Tang calls out to him and our boy apologizes for being distracted. Then he says that in addition to discussing cooperation with the Nebula group, he brought a gift. It's a fragment of an ancient technique he collected, which he is sure the Tang family will be interested in. The problem is, the pages seem a bit worn and don't contain much content. However, Tang gets excited, assuring him that this is indeed important to them. Our boy remarks that it takes a true expert to see value in something like this. Then Tang asks if he practices martial arts because on that day he fought impressively. Our boy downplays it, saying he only knows how to defend himself a bit. Tang tells him not to worry, as long as Nebula Group's demands are too large, the Tang family will support whatever is necessary. Our boy gets excited. It seems Tang is truly focused when it comes to martial arts. In the backyard, Tang shows him where he usually trains and tells him to come at him without holding back. Yan Mu, however, says he's only been practicing for a short while and asks Tang to go easy on him. But Tang charges at him immediately, saying they'll start now. He throws a punch and our boy blocks with his elbow. He grabs Tang's arm and Tang is impressed by his quick reaction. Wow, is he about to get knocked down? But he's not that bad. He manages to stay on his feet. Yan Mu praises Tang's skills, saying he's better than expected. Tang responds that he's not bad either and urges him to keep going. Man, are these guys forming a deep bond or what? What's up with this chemistry? A few rounds later, both are exhausted. If this were a romantic subplot, I'd make a joke, but I'm too intimidated by these two already. Tang addresses our boy as Mr. Yan and tells him not to be so formal. With that, he gives him a pat on the back and says it's time to finalize the contracts. Back at the Nebula Group office, Yan Mu asks the project lead why he's still at work. The guy, clearly dragging his feet, asks what the problem is. Our boy tells him there's some news he didn't want to share over the phone and hands him the documents. Penju is shocked to see that the Tang family is willing to support the Nebula Group. Our boy asks if that's enough, and Penju assures him it certainly is. Our boy then stands up and tells him to go home and rest. However, Penju mentions one more request. He discussed with some Nebula Group partners, and they're not skilled at commercial sales. They'd only want to handle product development, while Yan Mu could take over the company's name and negotiations. Yan Mu asks if they're not worried, he'll steal everything. But Penju expresses faith in his vision and abilities. Clearly, he's also interested in the Nebula Group's future. Besides, the company has significant growth potential, and he's unsure if he can manage it all. Our boy agrees to help, but since he's now deeply involved, the goal will be even greater. He introduces a product called a smartphone, a phone with a large screen and a camera. Wow, where did you get this idea, man? Furthermore, he decides to relocate the entire Nebula Group to his real estate office. Back at the building, our boy is exhausted from all the work. He opens the system, and as usual, it's just status updates. Only a month has passed, but his consumption of survival points has increased dramatically. He tries to access the system store but receives a message saying he doesn't have enough authority. He knows the points should be increasing, but ever since Xiao Yu disappeared, everything vanished with her. However, he's sure she isn't a bad person, so where did she go? Then she appears in the window, asking if he missed her. He turns to her with a stern face, questioning why she's back. She says she just needed to confirm a few things and is now back. With that, his 2,333 survival points return to him. Meanwhile, down below, people are shouting to call the police. There's a girl threatening to jump. Yan Mu tells Xiao Yu they should leave quickly before they cause a scene. But Xiao Yu, with her keen nose, already senses the presence of a seed. Turns out it's not her who's jumping. It's another girl on the rooftop trying to find out if the world is flat, and I'm pretty sure it's not. Our boy rushes up, saying he's going to save her and tells someone to call the police. The problem is, she's on the 30th floor and the elevator would take too long. He seems to recognize the girl as Zhen and wonders why she's at the Fuda building. Up there, she's shouting that she'll kill them all. When Yan Mu opens the door, she turns, saying that all murderers deserve to die. He slowly approaches, saying he can help her. He gets close enough to grab her, but she turns and tells Yan Mu not to feel guilty for anything. Then she jumps. But of course, our boy grabs her arm, saving her. The girl is limp, thinking she disconnected from life. At least she passed out, and he lays her down. However, the knife she had is smeared with ketchup. He wonders if she was trying to fool someone. Then the crazy Zhen wakes up, saying
What will happen next? To find out, do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You can also give us supers because your one support motivates us a lot to make such type of content. Thanks for watching. Sayonara.